기자부대 Hamon the beat!
Over the past few months, we have been looking at the common misconceptions in Jojo. Now that we have covered all 7 completed parts, I've decided that it's time to make a video from the opposite side. In this video, I will be going over the legitimate mistakes Araki has made throughout the Jojo series. The first one comes from the first part, Phantom Blood. In the original release of the manga, Will Zappelli tells Jonathan that he does not have any children. This was of course completely contradicted by the existence of Mario and Caesar in Part 2. After this was pointed out, Araki had the line altered in future releases of the part, along with a written apology. Early in Part 1, the character Wang Chan points out some moles on Dio's ear, a fortune-telling sign of good luck. We see this on his ear in that scene and a few more times nearby it. However, for many panels, the moles are nowhere to be seen, even in extreme detailed close-ups of his ear. In Part 2, Joseph determines that Straizo is a vampire because he is unable to see his breath out in the cold. This conflicts with Dio's transformation scene in Part 1, where we clearly see his breath. In Part 5, Naranci's boombox is destroyed by Mista after soda is poured on it. Later, he seems to use it again normally during the torture dance. I included this in the original version of this video, but have now noticed that in the manga, the second boombox is completely different. So while this is definitely not a real Araki forgot, I will still include it as a mistake in the anime, where the 2 boomboxes pretty much look the same. During the fight with Notorious B.I.G., Giorno loses his arms and, according to Bruno, can no longer use his life-giving ability. This is a very important aspect of the fight, since Trish has to save the brooch that was regrowing Giorno's hand. However, the idea that Gold Experience can only give life through his hands is contradictory. Early on in the part, Giorno defeats Black Sabbath by giving life to the roots of a tree using his stance feet. Later, we see him create the fish from the life preserver using his foot, and finally, he kicks a piece of the branch to give it life against Green Day. The character Polnareff has a certain discrepancy involving his fingers. During Part 3, Polnareff lost the pinky and ring finger of his left hand during the fight with Vanilla Ice. This is mostly maintained throughout the rest of the part. However, there is still an error where he appears to have them again for one panel. This would be pretty minor if it weren't for his return in Part 5. We see that Polnareff does in fact have a prosthetic on his hand. However, it's on the wrong hand. Not only that, but it's only a prosthetic for one finger rather than 2. Strangely, in certain shots, the rest of the hand almost appears to be prosthetic as well, with the same bumps on what is supposed to be his flesh. It's possible that this is a coloring mistake, and that this is simply a whole prosthetic hand for the right hand he lost against Diavolo. However, it still appears that his left hand is completely intact during Part 5 and the flashback where he's crippled. Now, it is possible to argue that maybe Polnareff got back his fingers after Dio was beaten, and that it was a short enough time for them to have been saved. However, this doesn't seem to be the case, since we can still see that he is missing fingers at the end of Part 3, when he boards the plane to get home. Overall, I'd say that it's undeniable that Polnareff's fingers are pretty inconsistent. In Part 6, a new stand is introduced with the name Earth, Wind, and Fire, despite there already being a stand by that name, written slightly differently in Japanese. This is referring to the stand of Mikitaka from Part 4. When Part 6 was re-released as volumes, the name of the stand was changed to Planet Waves. For the 2012 JoJo exhibition, Araki made an illustration featuring Joseph, Caesar, and Lisa Lisa. However, Lisa Lisa is shown to have a birthmark here, which should not be possible due to her not being a descendant of Jonathan. Another error involving the Joestar bloodline comes from Araki's book, Manga in Theory and Practice, which has an official English release that you should go buy right now. In one segment of the book, Araki erroneously refers to Joseph as Jonathan's son, when he is actually his grandson. However, I am not aware if this is a mistranslation or a mistake made by Araki himself. Across various forms of media, stands are shown to have stats. This is a helpful thing to have when gauging the limits that certain stands have. However, there are some strange choices with certain stats, like Hermes' stand Kiss apparently having the same relative strength of Star Platinum, despite that never really being demonstrated. A C in strength is listed as being comparable to that of a human, while the stand Geb, which has a C, is shown to be able to rip off heads. Overall, stand stats are inconsistent and kind of unreliable. And finally, the biggest Araki forgot of them all, the mini horse march. At the beginning of Part 7, Steven Steele brings out these tiny horses as the mascot of the race, but they're never seen again. What are they? Are they toy horses? Are they robots? Are they genetically engineered? Are they rock animals? We never got any explanation for what these are, and we probably never will. Araki is a fraud. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video where I thank my $5 and $10 patrons. Thank you to Norden the Lich, Alex Ramirez, Reziana, Boat Girl, Nax, The Insane Penguin, Anasui Hat, Robert E.O. Speedwagon, and Doorbell.